Legend Total War here, and today we're doing another top 5 Total War video. So previously we did the top 5 best Total War games, and overall I think I got a pretty positive response from that. I actually expected a lot more dislikes, because people are very passionate about Total War games, and if their favorite didn't make it to the top 5, they've got something to say about it, and that's absolutely fine. This is purely opinionated. I do try to add in as much evidence to it as possible based on reviews, concurrent players on Steam, that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, it is all an opinion. Now, what we're doing today is the top 5 worst Total War games. So that is to say, the bottom 5 Total War games as well. So from 5 to 1, we'll go through them. I've tried to be as fair as possible, going through as much of the reviews as possible, looking at the concurrent players, looking at the quality of the DLC. All of these things will factor into it, and of course my own opinion about those games and how the AI functions and the overall enjoyability of these games. So I just want to say as well before we get started that of course if it is just my opinion, okay, don't take it too personally. I know that maybe your favorite game might be in this list, okay, and all I can say is I'm sorry, but that's just how I feel about it. And also that in many ways there are no bad Total War games except for the number 1 slot, which I'll get to eventually. So let's move on now to number 5 in the worst Total War game category. I don't have a whole lot to say about number 5. It's actually the first game I ever purchased, Medieval Total War. In many ways I think this is a good Total War game. However, it's very old and it just doesn't stand up to today's the newer Total War games, or even many of the older Total War games that came after it though. It is quite buggy, and on Steam it has pretty poor reviews, largely due to not being ported very well over to Steam. Now when it comes down to it, this is actually a very enjoyable game, and if you haven't played it, I strongly recommend you try to get it to work. It's pretty cheap on Steam, so but like I said, it didn't make the top 5. And I don't really like putting this in the bottom 5, but at the same time, there are not really that many bad Total War games, so that's where it stands. Anyway, let's move on to number 4. Again, don't have a lot to say about this in terms of how bad it is. It's not a bad game. Number 4 slot goes to Shogun Total War. Again, a game that I did not really want to put on a bottom 5 list. It's the first Total War game, and we owe a lot to this. It laid the foundations for what is to come, and it was the first game on the Total War 1 engine, of which there are 2 games, both of which in the bottom 5, because Medieval 1 was on the Total War 1 engine as well. Now, when it comes to it, there's not a lot of negatives I can say about this game. But at the same time, there's not a lot of positives either when talking about it as a game in 2018. It is very simple, and at the end of the day, Shogun 2 completely outdated this game. There's no reason to play this game over Shogun 2, which is of course in the top 5 Total War games. But for its time, Shogun Total War was an amazing game, and like I said, we owe a lot to it. There's not much more I can say about it, only that it is unfortunately in one of the worst Total War game category. Anyway, let's now move on to number 3, a title which actually deserves to be in the bottom Total War game list. Now, personally, I would have put this game lower on the list. However, what saved this game from being lower on the list is in fact decent reviews and decent amount of people that still play this game. I think in many ways, this game required a mod in order to fix it. And it draws upon a very popular time frame, being in the 18th century. The number 3 slot in the worst Total War games goes to Empire Total War, a game that introduces a lot of great things, but also screws up a hell of a lot in the campaign. Now, this is the first game that was made on the Total War 3 engine, which is the Warscape engine, which is the engine that is still used today. Now, there's a lot to like about Empire Total War, and a lot to dislike about it. And at the end of the day, it's still a good Total War game, but it absolutely does not stand up to the other games in this franchise. As far as a gunpowder warfare game is concerned, it is completely eclipsed by Napoleon Total War in terms of popularity, and it is eclipsed by Fall of the Samurai, which is a far superior gunpowder game. Now, this game has incredibly bad AI. The AI just flounders about in battle, and you can defeat them taking absolutely minimal losses. All you gotta do is, bug them out, which is incredibly easy to do because they just love to just run around and reform all the time. They're very, very incompetent, which is disappointing considering the lack of unit types in this campaign. The amount of bugs that were just never fixed in this game is insurmountable. The fact that you can finish the entire map completion within 3 turns is ridiculous, and no other Total War game can be done quite that fast. But it does have some merits to it. The game introduced 3 theaters of war, being the Americas, Europe, and India, along with other things, so it has some good to it. Unfortunately though, it is number 3. Now let's move on to the second worst Total War game. Now, in my personal opinion, this game here deserved the number 3 slot. However, the reason why it got the second worst Total War slot was because of its extremely poor reviews. Largely, I think, due to bad business practices on CA's part, due to, day 1 DLC, that kind of stuff, which of course Empire Total War didn't do. Now, this is of course Total War Attila. In many ways it's a good game, but in many other ways it's not a good game either. I have very mixed feelings towards this game, as many of you know. I've given this game many tries to be attempts to actually enjoy this game, and truth be told, I could just never get into it. And I've done my best to think about what is it that made this game fail so hard. And in my opinion, it's because the AI doesn't play the same game that you do. It plays against you, but it's not playing the same game that you are. That's what it feels like. The AI is pitted against you to annoy you and to irritate you while being utterly incompetent. The border gore on this game just gets ridiculous. The Western Roman Empire falls to pieces almost immediately, regardless of who plays it, and the world just turns into an absolute mess straight off the bat. The AI factions have no interest in conquering settlements, including Attila, which, don't even get me started on how the horde mechanic works against the Huns. It's utterly ridiculous, and it's incredibly gamey to have to beat, where defeating an actual army is not preferable over letting them live. Utterly ridiculous. This game has major problems with it, but it does have some good graces. The DLC for it is pretty decent, Age of Charlemagne being one of the best DLC in the Total War franchise. However, this game, in my opinion, it tries too hard to be an Empire survival game, and doesn't really have that same spirit that other Total War games have, which is to say, an empire building game. Now, I know that a lot of people love this game, but just looking at it based on the reviews, based on the concurrent players on Steam, it just doesn't really add up to being, even in the top 5 list. And so I believe it has earned its place, at least in the bottom 5. Personally, I would have put it as number 3, but it gets to number 2 purely because of its poor reviews on Steam. Anyway, now let's move into the number 1, which I believe there can almost be a complete consensus and cannot be denied, the number 1 slot. So let's move on to that. Now, this game needs no introduction. This is by far the worst Total War game that has ever been released, and also happens to be the newest Total War game. That is to say, Total War Saga: Thrones of Britannia. Now, many might argue, is this really even a Total War game? Why not include Spartan Total Warrior or Total War Arena or something like that? Well, the thing is, the Total War uses a specific formula: turn-based strategy, real-time tactics. Thrones of Britannia is built right off the Total War Attila engine, so it absolutely does count as a Total War game. It may be a Total War, sort of a light Total War game, but it is no less bad for what it is, based on its price. This game is gutted of content. I only played a few hours of this game when it essentially was in early access, and it was awful. I had pages upon pages of criticisms towards this game, and I don't really want to go into detail about all the problems I had with it, but all you need to do is look on Steam to just see how fucking smashed this game is in terms of reviews and also concurrent players. It is the worst rated Steam game for Total War, sitting at 55% positive reviews in total, and recent Total recent reviews are in the mostly negative. So over time, this game is not improving. People are not enjoying this game very much, and they're not playing it either. It only has about 800 concurrent players at any given time on average. Sometimes I've seen it as low as 450 people playing it at any given time. That is 1/4 of any given time's players for Medieval 2, which is a 12-year-old game or something by now. Again, I could go into detail as to every little problem that is in this game, but I would need an entire video just for that. In fact, the video that I did make about Thrones of Britannia, I struggled to cram into 10 minutes every little problem that I had with it. And I believe since then, there have been even more problems, especially to do with loyalty, with basically it just being a civil war simulator, which is usually not particularly enjoyable within a Total War game. But all you gotta do is look at the reviews to see that this game bombed hard. It may have sold well, but this game is not performing well, and even Creative Assembly has completely abandoned this title, having only released one DLC, the Blood Pack, which is probably cut and dry straight out of Total War Attila. In fact, if you own Total War Attila's Blood Pack, you got it for free. That's how obviously, transferred over it was, and there's been no DLC for it since. Now, that being said, I do hope that they don't give up on this title. It's an interesting time frame, and just because it's a bad game now doesn't mean it has to be a bad game forever. I'm more than happy to give this game a second chance one day, but it needs to have a serious injection of content and balancing. The auto-resolve is completely unbalanced. Worse even than Total War Attila, worse than Rome 2, which have very bad auto-resolves. They fixed it somewhat in Warhammer 2, but they didn't retroactively apply it to this, and this game just has nothing for people who love the Total War franchise. Many people that actually do like this game were new to the Total War franchise, and I don't think played the other games due to their maybe complexity. But the thing is, Total War is a grand strategy game, and a game that is a grand strategy game that fails to draw in grand strategy game enthusiasts, I think fails utterly. If you're making a strategy game, stop trying to appeal to first-person shooter enthusiasts, So in many ways, I think this game just aimed completely for the wrong targets. And although some people do like this game, I also think that they got bored of it really quick, because this game just doesn't have enough content. The 5 different races don't feel different and get very boring very fast. I only had to get 20 hours into this game before I felt like, you know what, I've seen and done everything now. I just don't need to play this game again. And I haven't since. And unfortunately, that's why this game gets the #1 slot as the worst Total War game. And I really don't think there's a whole lot that people can say, against this being the #1 slot for that, because it is in complete contrast to the best. Everything that Medieval 2 does right, this game shits on, in my opinion. Campaign depth, nope. Auto-resolve balance, nope. Content, Medieval 2 has a lot of fucking content, nope. Variety of factions, nope. Variety of cultures, nope. Things to do on the campaign map, nope. Agents, nope. Everything about it just feels cut down. Although, truth be told, it's got good siege battles, and overall, I did enjoy the 3 or 4 battles that I had to fight in any particular campaign, because most of them I just auto-resolved, and I got bored very quickly. But anyway, enough going on about that. Like I said, I could go on for ages about this game, about the problems with it, but I don't need to. So that's why it is, unfortunately, on the bottom of this list. Anyway, that's the end of this video. And once again, I'd like you guys to recommend what you want me to cover for the next top 5 Total War games. I want to hopefully do this once every week. I'm hoping you enjoyed the slightly improved quality. I don't get together and edit my videos because unfortunately my editing software is just all, I have logistic problems with this, so I kind of need to do it on the fly. So I've just gotten, trailers and played them in the background, and it's all done live. It's quicker for me, and I think I just want to get my commentary out and see what you guys think. I know for a fact it's not going to get hundreds of thousands of views, but I've got so many other things to focus on, and I'd rather focus on that. Anyway, let me know what you want me to cover for the next top 5 Total War, top 5 of anything Total War, whether it be mods or anything. Try to be somewhat specific, but top rated comments that's what I'll do next. Anyway, I'll see you next time, fuckers.